To everybody logging in just now, welcome to the webinar series. Thank you very much to the early birds for their patience as well. I think we can get started. So today we're going to be talking about employee engagement. After starting off with some introductions, we're going to define engagement and then we'll consider why engagement is relevant. We'll look at some examples of how it can be achieved and we'll explore the tools within HR Partner that can help you along the way. And then we will finish. Oh, excuse me. You can just see this bar popping up here. Bear with me. Then we'll finish with some top tips for creating an effective satisfaction survey. And we've put together a little freebie as well for participants today. And that's going to be a short sample survey, which will be distributed to each of you throughout the course of the week. See, oh, we're in full screen. Perfect. So before we press forward, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Cara. I'm based in the UK. I am in the north of England though, so I do speak a little bit funny, and I've obviously not thought very well about the timing of today's webinar because I have gone head to head with the Great British Bake Off's first episode of the new season. So I've not really catered for our UK audience there very well. So I have a bachelor's degree in international business and German, an MA in German and a certificate in recruitment practice. I have 10 years of experience in recruitment, both agency side and as part of an internal HR function, during which time I manage teams, manage projects and have been part of some huge software implementations. I've partnered with all manner of different organisations throughout EMEA, before joining the customer success team at HR Partner. Outside of work, I am very much a sleep-deprived mum of two little people who relies a little bit too much on black coffee and a love of all things chocolate. But moving swiftly onwards from my very unhealthy diet, for those of you who aren't too familiar with HR Partner just yet, we were first established in 2015. The HR Partner platform is an HRMS solution that combines simplicity and ease of use with accessibility. This gives smaller organisations access to the tools that big companies use without the gigantic price tag. Today, we have over 1,500 clients in 75 countries worldwide. We're a small and agile team, and we really do strive to get to know our customers so that we can provide the best tailored support out there around the clock. Now onto today's topic. I first want to establish what employee engagement is. So way back in 2012, Forbes magazine published an article that defined engagement as the emotional commitment the employee has to the organisation and its goals. Although this article is almost 10 years old, scary, it remains pertinent today. Engagement is about more than just being happy at work. It's about more than job satisfaction. The term that's often used in conjunction with engagement is discretionary effort. And this refers to people wanting to go above and beyond, consistently going that extra mile and doing that not because they have to, but because they truly want to. It runs deeper than an employee enjoying their work. It's that connection to your organisation, and it's an utter belief in what your organisation is doing, how they do it, and that belief that you are a valued part of their vision. Something worth noting here is that this entire process begins when your employee is actually still a candidate. If a company clearly illustrates its employee value proposition during the recruitment process, candidates already begin that engagement journey. Recruiters need to be shouting about what makes their company unique. They need to inspire candidates to want to work there, show them what the company is all about, what they stand for, and why they are proud to be a part of it. So why is engagement important? Simply put, engaged employees are productive employees and employees who take pride in their work. Often, they view company success as their own success and vice versa. This in turn leads to a more efficient workforce, a present workforce, as well as a lower turnover rate and a better company culture. Together, these things are the ingredients for your company's success. Now think about the flip side of this. What happens if you have disengaged employees? Well, in this case, you're unfortunately likely to have higher levels of both absenteeism and attrition, which can become disruptive to your other team members. High staff turnover can also be costly for your organisation, both in terms of finance, and we all know repetitive recruitment and onboarding new hires doesn't come very cheap. But it can also be costly in terms of your employer brand, because onlookers start to question why your retention rate is so low. They become reluctant to join the organisation, and internally morale can be impacted, which again could make future recruitment tricky. It's a difficult situation to reverse, which is why we have to do what we can to avoid it. Okay, so now let's consider what drives engagement. There's been a huge amount of research into this area, and while each piece of research draws its own conclusions, there are some notable recurring themes, and those are centred around the company culture, the team, and that includes both co-workers and leadership, and finally, career development. So we're going to spend the rest of this session exploring these areas in particular in some more detail. I'm going to talk you through some ways of achieving engagement and some tangible solutions within HR Partner that would underpin those suggestions. So first, let's consider company culture. This is essentially the way we run our business. It's a set of shared values and goals and the general attitude of a company. And it's something that should be instilled and reinforced by managers on a day-to-day basis. An ever more important and particularly pertinent issue that promotes great company culture is an understanding of people's circumstance. Empathy has been vital to maintain any level of engagement during the pandemic. This, of course, isn't limited just to the pandemic, but it has been amplified throughout it. We've all proven over the past 18 months that working from home is feasible, but some love it and some loathe it. Everybody's got their reasons. Those who've had to juggle children and working from home with a laptop balanced on the knee probably didn't have as good a time of it as those with a fully kitted out office with 5 monitors and a decent LAN connection that doesn't fail every time somebody logs on to Netflix in the next room. I read something online recently that says we may all have been through the same storm, but we've been in very different boats. So listening to each individual and understanding their situation, their circumstances, goes a long way. Whether this means they prefer to do a bit of work in the evenings, they actually prefer to be in the office 9 to 5, or their life will be made infinitely better if they could split their shift throughout the day. Just yesterday, I read a LinkedIn post by a parent who explained their heart sank whenever they saw a webinar invitation for 9 AM because they knew they couldn't get involved, they were on the school run. That post received so many different comments from parents and carers in the same position, and it just made me think, why don't companies have a rule that they will have their company-wide or departmental-wide meetings between 10 and 2 in the UK, for example, so within a school day? Whatever the matter for your employees, make it your business to know it and do something about it. Getting to know your team in this way and getting to know these pain points comes from dialogue. A good company culture is often developed organically when a company promotes good communication, openness, and trust. A former employer of mine is known for holding monthly State of the Nation meetings, which involves the whole business coming together once a month in the cafeteria, and the CEO himself models openness. He talks them through the good, the bad, and the ugly of the month gone by and discusses the plans for the month ahead. The honesty about what hadn't gone to plan was a great thing. People knew they were hearing a truth and not being painted a rosy picture of how the company wanted to be perceived externally. They were being entrusted with the truth, and that in turn led to them trusting too. During the State of the Nation meetings, the CEO also recognised achievements of individuals. He gave out awards for length of service for particular achievements too. People really looked forward to these meetings. They were instantly bought in. They instantly felt part of the vision, and they trusted the business off the back of it, and they trusted the people within the business too. What's more, people are told about this open culture by the talent team at interview, and you can feel that engagement start to develop already. before they've even put pen to paper. It's a great example of engagement beginning during the recruitment process. Regular team meetings, they're a great communication tool and can go a long way towards engagement. If you can do these in person, great. If you're still working remotely, then these are even more critical. And let's face it, we've all become accustomed to tools such as Zoom or Teams or WebEx to facilitate these get-togethers virtually. In your team meetings though, be aware that those managers who best connect with their teams tend to be those who show authenticity and transparency. Openness and honesty really are key here. We recently published a blog article that touched upon the concept of modelling vulnerability. Show your team you're one of them. Talk about a struggle of your own and empathise. A meeting I was once part of that really sticks in my mind was when a manager of mine, who had never really seemed fazed by anything and was always a pretty hard career woman, started the meeting with an icebreaker in which she asked us how we would like to be viewed by others. She led the way. She really opened up and the entire team was taken aback as she discussed how she was saddened by the way that she was perceived by the business. From that moment, the dynamic of our team changed and the trust grew almost instantly. Solid communication channels between leaders and their teams are at the heart of a strong employee engagement programme. Another form of communication that cannot be undervalued is networking. This can happen both internally, perhaps cross-departmentally, and externally. But allowing your team to share best practice and experience not only gives them a forum and a voice, which helps them feel valued and empowered, but it allows them to gain insight into other ways of working and broaden their own perspectives too. Often when networking, people bounce ideas off each other, and the energy and drive that comes off the back of this can be incredible. There are networking meetups all over the world, conferences, congresses, online forums. The possibilities around this are endless. But I'd like to talk you through some of the communication tools within HR Partner that can really help enable and facilitate this kind of open culture. So HR Partner has a brilliant news and polls module, which allows administrators to broadcast company news and updates to keep employees informed. And employees are able to comment on these articles and express their own opinions. It opens dialogue, it increases interaction with your team members. When publishing an article, you can choose whether to broadcast it via email so that your employees are aware there's a new article to read. You could even publish a short poll to gauge opinion on what might drive engagement, what might your team like to see. Polls within the system are fully confidential, votes are counted, but nobody, including the administrator, can see who voted for which options. There's also a pin board tool which acts just like your office notice board. Employees can publish pins about anything at all, whether they have something to sell, they want a lunch date, or if they're in urgent need of an Excel guru who knows their VLOOKUPs from the pivot table. As an admin user on HR Partner, you also have the ability to send bulk emails and SMS messages to people in certain departments or with certain tags. It wouldn't take long at all to send a short message to check in, ask how things are going, and just do a general temperature check. These are such simple tools you have at your disposal, which when used in the right way promote an open and honest culture, which in turn promotes trust. The second theme I wanted to touch upon is the team. According to an article published by Gartner last year, an engaged employee has commitment to their co-workers. This is about getting that buy-in from each other, truly understanding and respecting each other. There are many ways to drive this business within an organisation. We've already touched upon team meetings to an extent, but these can be used not only to discuss work matters, but also to catch up with colleagues. They're an opportunity to get to know each other. Dedicate a section of your next team meeting to this. Kick off with an icebreaker, such as asking employees to tell everybody an interesting fact about themselves, or better still, collate the facts in advance and ask the team to match the person to the fact. Today, we all have access to open communication channels such as Slack, which as part of a remote team, I personally rely on daily. And here at HR Partner, we actually have a random Slack channel where we all post things that are completely unwork related. So what we've been up to over the weekend, family snaps, holiday stories, Netflix recommendations. Some companies go that bit further and may announce a theme or a topic each day for colleagues to comment on. Something not work-related really helps a team come together. Especially important in a remote world are team events, team initiatives. Every day, my LinkedIn feed is filled with companies encouraging their employees to come together and fundraise for a nominated charity. Often something as simple as each contributing to a total number of steps in a month to reach a milestone. Now that we're slowly getting back to some sort of normal, internal competitions such as bake-offs are starting to grow in popularity again, team days out, or even something as simple as encouraging your people to down tools at lunchtime and sit with their colleagues and eat together. Over the past 18 months, there's been a huge growth in virtual team activities, online cooking lessons, remote wine tasting, book clubs and supper clubs and the like. I've personally taken part in some online escape rooms, murder mystery nights, race nights. To be honest, I really didn't look forward to any of these things. I thought they'd be quite cringeworthy, but my goodness, we laughed a lot, and we all know laughter is a great tonic. A colleague and I were discussing another business we know of that recently held a scavenger hunt one Friday afternoon. So they were getting their team members to collect specific items from around the house and bring them back to their computers. My daughter's school actually did the same thing in the first lockdown. It sounds silly, but it can be so much fun, and it doesn't take long to put together. And the payback that comes from giving your team a chance to get to know each other and to laugh together, simply talk with one another, is invaluable. Whenever possible, encourage different groups from within the business to get together, whether this means cross-departmental sports events, quizzes, or cross-organisational days out, for example. I know many businesses in the UK offer their younger demographic a chance to take part in the Duke of Edinburgh programme, which involves volunteering, physical skills and expedition. I've personally witnessed people in my own team who were very shy, introvert young people, brand new to business, flourish and develop into some of the best networked, most outgoing individuals in a business because of this programme and the relationships they built while climbing a mountain with a colleague from another department who they'd never previously spoken with. Having these opportunities and having the investment and backing from an organisation combined with the relationships that form as a part of it go an awful long way towards engagement. So what kind of tools do we have within HR Partner that can help celebrate co-workers and build that team? From things as little as celebrating work anniversaries, which can be seen on your HR Partner home screen. It's information right in front of you when you log on. Shouting about achievements, whether these are individual certifications or milestones or even record company months. It doesn't matter how you do it. Send out a group mail or publish a company news article from your HR Partner account. Just do it. Find a way to make people feel proud, to feel valued and appreciated, make them, well, drive them, I suppose, to ensure their teammates feel that same way. We recently shared an article on Twitter that highlighted the importance of celebrating employee birthdays. It's such a simple thing. Again, viewable on your HR Partner home screen. Let's face it, we all want to feel special one day a year. So use the information that HR Partner is giving you and go ahead and send that birthday card or even just a message. Or if it's a milestone birthday, go that extra mile and publish a news article on HR Partner about it. Any of these things could take you a matter of minutes, but make that person feel valued, which goes an awful long way in boosting their commitment. Encourage your team to get to know each other, to understand each other. HR Partner's employee portal has the option of a biography section so that each employee can tell their co-workers about themselves. Encourage them to use it to share some photos, to tell the people they work with each day a little bit about them, what makes them tick, what makes them who they are. I've completed mine. It tells everybody about my children that keep me awake every night, which leads to the excessive black coffee drinking that I discussed earlier. So moving on to career development, the third and final area of engagement drivers that we're going to look at. It's all about opportunity to develop and progress, showing your employees that you believe in them and in their potential. These goals that you set for your team should be aligned to their own aspirations, but they then need the autonomy and accountability. That's what really drives the engagement. In order to be able to progress, an employee needs to know where they are currently. This comes from a combination of the more informal day-to-day feedback, weekly one-to-ones, for example, as well as more formal appraisals, performance reviews, which leaders should ideally be looking to do at least every 6 months, we would say. Then an employee needs to know where they're headed. This gives the employee incentive, drive, and motivation, but it also allows you to jointly outline the potential skills or knowledge gap and then roadmap their journey, detailing the steps that need to be taken to reach that goal. These steps may include shadowing colleagues, secondments to other business areas, networking opportunities, training courses or certifications, or a combination of these things. As the manager of an in-house recruitment function, one thing I used to encourage members of my team to do was to spend at least 1 day a week working from a different department. It helped them gain a holistic view of the workings of the business. They became more confident and able to do their role, and that in itself created drive and energy. A contact centre recruiter sitting in supply chain for a day suddenly understands a lot more about the nature of the calls the agents took. And they even understand what happens after the call centre agent places that customer order. It helped them understand, it helped them feel a part of the greater good. It was a simple thing that showed the team that I valued them and their success in the business. It's important when going through this process that we listen to our team members and we understand what it means to them. Progression for some people means moving up the pay scale. For others, it means becoming a team leader. But let's not forget there are people out there who aren't interested in management, but they love what they do and they would much prefer to become a senior specialist, a real best in class, or a master of their trade, for example. Some key pointers here are that this process isn't just a one-stop shop. It's a continuous cycle. It will evolve. Goalposts may move, but it should never, ever stop. The process of development isn't always easy. We may need to change plans to reshape, to pave way for the progression of the best in class, to keep them engaged. I've personally restructured teams to create a tier of leaders to give those who stood out somewhere to go. We then created departmental specialists and business partners. The team evolved continuously. And when people saw us doing this, they were excited to see we were creating opportunity. Another pointer is that we need to ensure that we facilitate the steps that we map out for people. This cannot just be lip service. We have to follow through. We must provide the learning and development resources. We must facilitate the training and the networking. And we must, and this one's a biggie, we must gift people the time needed to do these things. I've been in a position where I was given training to progress into a role that I didn't want to do. And I also wasn't given the time to do the training, which meant working every evening from walking in the door until I fell asleep, and every weekend for a role that I didn't want. That one didn't work out too well. So, moving on now. HR Partner has many tools that can help facilitate these appraisals, performance management and training needs analysis, for example, that will really help with that career development aspect. A performance management module is a great way for you to plan any upcoming reviews as well as recording any previous instances. The module is accessible via an employee record and allows users to record performance reviews, set reminders and upload any documentation. Similarly, we have a training module for you to record any training courses somebody may attend and upload any certifications they may achieve as a result. Completing the skills module within an employee record may allow you to spot any gaps which may need to be filled, highlighting employees who may benefit from some training. You can utilise the company library module to ensure employees have things such as company handbooks, ways of working guides, policies, guidelines at their disposal, making sure they have the tools they need to do their job as and when required. Our forms tool can be utilised in many different ways. You can publish custom forms on the employee self-service portal for an employee to complete whenever they need it. You could publish a training request form, for example, for employees to complete if they themselves identify a training need. Many of our clients use the forms tool to create appraisal forms too, which can be assigned to an employee for self-assessment ahead of time. You could also design a confidential satisfaction survey using our forms tool. Then you could assign it to all employees, potentially setting aside a specific time slot for all employees to complete the form, which allows you to highlight the importance of completing the form and essentially how serious you're taking this and how much you want to get their take on things. So that leads us to our satisfaction survey top tips that we want to provide you with. So first and foremost, when creating your satisfaction survey, know what you're aiming to get out of the survey. Have the end goal in mind with every question you write and check whether that question will contribute to achieving your goal. Secondly, when writing each question, remember that asking open questions may give you more insight, but it could be far harder to analyse. Many companies therefore stick to quantitative questions, using either multiple choice or a rating system, for example. This means that results can be counted efficiently rather than each detail having to be read and analysed by somebody. But this not only saves time, but it does also improve the accuracy of your data because results are not then subject to personal interpretation. These kinds of questions could occasionally be followed up with an optional section for elaboration, but this should only be done if those comments are genuinely going to be read and acted upon. And that leads to my third tip. Ask questions about things that you are willing to do something about. If you gain insight into an area and choose to ignore and not address it effectively, you create yourself a bigger problem. You actually disengage your team, and that goes against the whole purpose of the exercise. Number 4, ensure you don't ask loaded questions, meaning do not make assumptions in your questions. An example of this could be something as simple as, are you still enjoying your role? Which makes the assumption that each individual was at some point enjoying their role. Although we'd like to think that is the case, it's not always the reality. And the reality is what we're looking for here. The unloaded version will be something along the lines of, how satisfied are you with your role? Number 5, refrain from bias in the wording of your questions. Keep them neutral to ensure you're gaining the truest reflection of reality. Number 6, ensure you are only asking one question at a time. For example, how satisfied are you with your manager and co-workers would be unsuitable because a person often has very different working relationships and may have very different opinions on how they work with their co-workers as opposed to their line manager. Number 7, make it anonymous. To get the most out of your survey in terms of honesty and in terms of participation itself, you need to make it confidential. If you're a slightly larger organisation, you could potentially ask participants to name their department to help you pinpoint any issues, analyse any trends. There does, however, need to be a degree of anonymity. And this ties in with the quantitative, qualitative question we addressed earlier. Qualitative data can hinder confidentiality because employees may start elaborating, referring to specific instances that inadvertently disclose their identity. Number 8, don't overcomplicate it. This helps increase participation. If you keep the survey short and simple, people are more likely to take the time out of the day to complete it. And as mentioned in our last tip, a short and simple survey will help maintain anonymity. We need to be doing what we can to increase participation here to get the largest sample possible. A small sample causes issues as it doesn't always paint the truest picture. If only a quarter of employees complete the survey, how do we know whether that quarter was an engaged quarter or a disengaged quarter? How do we know that a small percentage provided that true reflection of the overall picture? And number 9, oh, I've not moved my slides on, dear me. Number 9, don't forget it's all about the follow-up. Ensure you act upon the data that you collate. Highlight key themes in your next team meeting. Agree on action plans together, set timeframes and stick to them. Provide regular updates and let your people know you care about how they feel, what they think. Listen and act. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the session already. So I'd like to thank you very much for taking part today. It's been a real pleasure. It's time to hand over to you for any questions that may have arisen throughout the presentation. So I'm just going to take a look. We'll get through as many of those as we can do. Okay. So I have got a question coming through asking me, I referred to employee value proposition. Can I elaborate on what that means? So the employee value proposition is essentially, it's what your employees are getting, what benefits they're reaping in exchange for working for you. So what are you giving them in exchange for their skills, their experience? This usually or quite often is tied in with a company's mission or strategy. But the most important thing when coming up with your EVP is that you listen to your people, you find out what their compelling reason is for being enthusiastic about working with you, for wanting to be there, for being proud of working there. What are those key drivers for those people? And you need to really get to the bottom of this, because this is going to form the reason that you keep the best people and that you attract the best talent as well. I have another question coming through here asking me, how often should we be sending out surveys? So the surveys, I would recommend a normal satisfaction survey, we would say to send out potentially maybe only once a year annually. If you do identify issues, you could potentially then increase that and maybe send out a shorter pulse check, potentially once a quarter. That might work the best possible way for you. And another question about whether or not different departments should potentially have different surveys. I would recommend keeping it simple, especially when you first start on this journey of trying to gauge a better idea of your employee engagement status. I think it makes sense to keep it simple, to have one survey. It helps you collate your data, analyze your data in the best possible way. And again, as I said earlier, if you do start to identify that there are some issues, potentially then we could look at breaking it down somewhat to give you a better idea of where those problem areas may be. Okay, I think, let me see. How do you engage a disengaged worker is another question I've had come through here. That's a very good question. It is very difficult. I did address this earlier on. It's a difficult thing to reverse, but I think we have to start with that open dialogue. Find out why they're disengaged. What issues have they had? Why are they unsatisfied? We really need to start at the bottom and work through this. And it's all about listening to them and taking action, but trying to come up with that plan together, work on a plan together of how we're going to get them to where they want to be. Quite often they can be dissatisfied because they don't see a future, they don't see what opportunities there are for them moving forwards, or they don't feel a part of it. So we need to really help build that team, encourage them to want to do these things and come up with a plan together with them. But it's no good a manager just coming up with a plan of what the manager thinks this person wants. You need to hear it from that employee themselves. Okay, I think that is all for the questions now. So thank you very much for staying tuned throughout the webinar. As a token of our appreciation, we have not only prepared the sample survey for each of you, but we have a bonus offer of 2 free admin users for any webinar attendees, and that is valid for both new and existing customers. So please do get in touch with us via our support line to claim that, that offer. For anybody interested in learning more, I'd like to encourage you to start a free trial or go ahead and book a free demo with a member of the customer success team, because we'd love to learn more about your business and guide you through how HR Partner can benefit you. You can do both of these things by registering your interest in the Q&A section tool or heading over to our website, www.hrpartner.io. Thank you very much once more. It's been a real pleasure, and stay tuned for the next webinar.